Hi guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to this new workshop. So I haven't got another name for it yet. I went and got some little 90-degree head grub screws, 4mm grub screws, which are pretty good because they're the same taper as these cones we made, so they're just high grade 8 or something bolts, so they should wear pretty well on that, and they should be pretty good friction free fit, and they absolutely are. However, just putting 2 bolts and 2 screws in there without some sort of locking nut means that one of these comes loose and one of them tightens up, so when you spin it, while it's only spinning sort of that much probably, they tend to get pretty loose and it falls out after half a dozen spins. So I had to come up with a solution to this, and I've done one already, just to see proof of concept really. Is this one. It hasn't quite finished yet, but it's looking pretty good. What I've done is got a bit of Teflon PTFE rod and threaded it M3 and drilled and tapped these and screwed them in and screwed the grub screw past them, so it's basically it's a nylock system there. You screw these out and then you probably work these will just work out, but if you're not taking them in and out all the way, it's never going to be a problem. And this one I've put 2 center punch marks there, and I'm probably going to do the same here just to get them to stop this one turning a bit. So we'll do the other one. These are M3, so the first thing really is to center punch these and drill them M3. Have a look, these are quite loose, whereas these are quite firm actually. So that's the solution. If we get our beautiful stainless Randy Richard scriber, Randy Richard in the shop, serial number 17006, USA, Emma it says. Pretty excited to have that when I finally got one, but I've got a couple of them and there's always one on the bench. Hit up Randy Richard, he's still making them I think. We just scribe them, get a nice sharp brick punch, center punch that one, center punch that one. These want to be somewhere near balance I guess, but I'm going to just drill these 2.5mm and we're going to tap them. And just tap them by hand I think. That's right through. Don't know if it's a particularly sharp tap, and it was probably a slightly undersized hole because the drill I picked out of the drill stand may have been 2.4mm, but that's neither here or there. And we'll run a tap back through these just to clean out the holes, and I'll thread up a bit of this in the lathe, so let's go over to that. you want to sort of cut in this soft stuff, take a fairly heavy cut and get this down to size in one cut rather than take a lot of little cuts, because it will flex. And probably all it needs is a button die running on here. That's a pretty quick, easy job, and we'll screw that in and use it as a locker. Just so it comes past, I guess, half by a third of the thread, something like that, the diameter of the thread, in about a third of the hole. And we'll get this grub screw and screw in past it nicely, which is probably quite tight, but it should go past nicely, like so. Side cutters to chop him off. And hopefully we've got enough thread there to do the other end as well, but we haven't really. So we're going to have to cut another one. And we could screw this one in as well. Same deal. It's a little bit sticking out. There's a screw. Beautiful. Chop this one off. There we go. 2 lock nuts. So, of course we've damaged this surface here, so I'm going to give that a clean up in the lathe with a Scotch-Brite sponge. And I might do that first or I'll forget it. They're looking pretty good. And this one. These two of course just lock the centre shaft in here, so they don't need that sort of work or lock nuts or anything. And just do them up nice and tight on the shaft. This, I think, I like this all to fold up and go in a box after I'm done with it, rather than have it sitting around here gathering dust. So the thought is that this will just fit inside a socket, just gravity fit inside a socket. The centrepiece, of course, will be 8mm, and we need to find some 8mm stainless in reasonable length, so I've got to source that yet. But I might set these up in the lathe again, just nice in the little Sherline 3-jaw, and give them a go with a sanding sponge just to get them nice again. Give them a bit of a dress up, and we'll come back and put it back together. So there we go, we've got 2 little nylon inserts in there that are pretty neat, I think. This should line up nicely if we get this centered. And we should be able to get these spinning pretty freely with no slack. That's the theory. Certainly good enough for this, I hope. Pretty happy with that at this point. And same deal with this one, which probably should have gone together first, but fraction rattly. So, still a bit of rattle there. Just give this a fraction more here. It doesn't need much, but this should stay somewhere near. Probably too much friction now. If I did this again, I'd use finer threads. I'll give it that. So we've got a gimbal. It's pretty tidy, really. Pretty happy with that. No one knows what it's for yet, and there are people who know, but it's a pretty simple device. We need to make another one, which I think probably only tilts one way, like this way. Very similar, so it's this piece and an outer piece, probably not as big, so something, the rest of this material and the rest of this material, I'll make that up off camera. And we've got little lock points there and the 4 screws. Everything looks pretty tidy and nice. I'm pretty happy with that. There's a bit more brass work. Whether I'm actually gonna, probably I won't now, but I don't know about finish or anything else that might get a bit more of a polish. Don't know, might leave it like that. There's a few bits to make. This needs a rod through the middle with a sort of a socket on the end of it. This is the time I give you some clues about what this is going to be. There's a socket on the end of it, basically to screw a flat plate on, and a weight on the other end. So there you go, there's the clues for that part. But this looks pretty good and I'm really pleased with it. So next part, I think, is to get in this week and make the other gimbal, and we'll have a bit more of a look at that and before we finish the end of the video, I think. So at the end of the weekend, I've got a few more bits made. We've got this one we've already looked at. And we've sort of prototyped up a cradle. It's going to look something like this, probably with a cutout in it and a pin, just to cut out something like this, and a little pin in here so that this sits in the right spot and doesn't turn. Not that it's particularly important, I don't think, but in brass this might be a bit looser than that, just to slide in and out. And then this rocks nicely, so that's just a C-section with a brass plate on it, and I might actually etch some letters around there so that it's got some labelling on it. We'll see how we go with that, but there's 2 of them. Something like that's next, and there's a little plate or a table or a support, I guess you would call it, like this, that goes on the end of the 8mm rod. Not this one, the other one. And it's got a flat plate that goes over it probably in some sort of timber. I don't know, we're still thinking about that, but that's done. There's another pivot here that I've made. It's got a 5mm hole in here and a 6mm hole in here, and that actually goes on the end of this one. It swings backwards and forwards, and there's 2 lock screws there for another bar that goes through there. And this one's got a single pivot, so we've got that one made too. So basically this goes together and swings backwards and forwards, keeping this rod somewhat parallel to this surface, I hope. Should swing something like that. So we've got a few bits made. Most of the joints, actually, there's still some weights and wooden frame and some legs and some pendulums, but it's starting to come together. I guess everyone by now knows what this is, but next week I'll do a big reveal. We'll make these and we'll add some letters on them around here, so that you'll know exactly then what it is. We won't be able to hide it anymore. But I hope to get a bit more done, actually, but I've got a blown fuse in the VFD in the lathe or something like that, so we're going to have a bit of a look at that. So that's it for this week. Thanks for subscribing, all our new subscribers and everyone else who tunes in and has a look occasionally. Really appreciate the community that this channel's built, and just want to say, please like and subscribe. It does help a little bit, and be kind to each other, which helps a whole lot. And more soon, guys and girls.